Canada is an immense reservoir of energy resources spanning the vast terrain of North America. With its abundance of oil, natural gas, and valuable minerals, it has long served as an economic buffer for the United States. However, recent developments have been shifting this dynamic. Washington's imposition of protectionist tariffs has compelled Canada to explore alternative markets in Europe and Asia. This shift raises critical questions about the future of the United States' global influence. Could losing its largest energy supplier, located just across its northern border, disrupt America's strategic power balance?
We'll see what happens with Canada, but the people of Canada would be paying less than half of the tax. Am I going to impose tariffs on the European Union? Absolutely.
Recently, when U.S. President Donald Trump imposed and then suspended tariffs on all Canadian products,
Canada's recent trade agreements with the European Union and Asian nations are making waves in global commerce. If the country's cost-effective heavy crude, plentiful natural gas, and vital minerals are redirected to European ports or Asian refineries instead of U.S. markets, it could significantly impact Washington's economic development, employment opportunities, and energy leverage. The key question remains: is the partnership between the United States and Canada still irreplaceable, or will Canada's shift alter the global energy landscape? These uncertainties highlight the broader implications of Canada's evolving energy strategy. In recent years, the global energy market has undergone considerable transformations, with Canada positioned at the heart of these changes due to its vast oil and natural gas reserves. Energy trade between Canada and the United States has long been a pillar of both nations' economies. Following a brief pause, President Donald Trump announced his decision to enforce a 25% tariff on Canadian imports, set to take effect in the coming week. This move has pushed Canada to diversify its energy exports by expanding into European and Asian markets. Canada remains the largest supplier of energy to the United States and is the second largest buyer of U.S. energy exports, following Mexico. While the United States holds the title of the world's leading oil and gas producer, it still depends heavily on Canada for a steady supply of heavy crude oil to sustain its refineries and meet domestic energy demands. In fact, the increasing volume of oil imports from Canada has played a crucial role in reducing America's reliance on OPEC nations, with Canada now accounting for over half of U.S. oil imports. Additionally, nearly all the natural gas imported into the U.S. originates from Canada, which also serves as America's primary source of electricity and essential minerals like uranium. These interdependencies have made Canada an integral player in maintaining U.S. energy security and price stability. Despite this strong relationship, Canada is now shifting its focus towards European and Asian markets. President Trump's threat of imposing a 25% tariff on Canadian imports, including a 10% levy on Canadian oil, has disrupted one of the world's most established and extensive free trade partnerships. Canadian leaders have voiced their surprise at Washington's abrupt shift in approach. Yet, this challenge has also inspired Canada to seek broader international engagement. As part of its strategy to diversify trade, Canada has set a goal of increasing its non-U.S. exports by 50% by 2025. Within this strategy, the European Union and Asian markets offer significant opportunities. The European Union, as one of the largest economic powerhouses globally, is already Canada's second-largest trading partner. The Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, CETA, between Canada and the EU grants Canadian businesses preferential access to the European market, unlocking new growth potential. Observers suggest that this trade agreement provides the most promising pathway for Canadian businesses to lessen their dependence on the U.S. market. Signed in 2016 by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and EU officials, the agreement came into provisional application a year later, though full ratification is still pending. It effectively eliminated tariffs on almost all goods traded across the Atlantic and covers numerous services, while also aiming to streamline regulatory alignment through ongoing consultations. Moreover, it enables Canadian and European enterprises to compete for government contracts at all levels across Canada and the EU's 27 member states, presenting a business opportunity valued at approximately $3.3 trillion. However, the agreement has encountered hurdles in some European nations, causing delays in ratification. Since certain elements of the agreement fall under national jurisdiction, each EU member state must individually approve it. So far, 10 countries, including Italy, Ireland, and Poland, have yet to sign off. The reasons for opposition vary by country. Some critics argue that the dispute resolution mechanism gives corporations excessive influence, while others express concerns about national sovereignty, food safety standards, and the inclusion of local agricultural sectors in the agreement. Additionally, in some countries, ratification has been delayed due to a lack of prioritization in legislative agendas. Brexit has further complicated matters. The United Kingdom was one of the strongest advocates of CETA and was among the first EU members to ratify it. Now that the UK has exited the bloc, Canada and Britain have agreed to temporarily operate under CETA's provisions until they finalize a bilateral trade agreement. Given the shifting trade landscape and the increasing importance of non-US markets, Canada's evolving energy strategy could have lasting consequences on its historical economic ties with the United States. President Donald Trump's threats of a trade war have placed pressure on Canada and the European Union to intensify efforts to finalize agreements and encourage businesses to maximize their benefits. If Canada were to shift its energy exports toward European and Asian markets, what would the implications be for the United States? This transition could bring several drawbacks. Firstly, the U.S. could lose its privileged access to an affordable and stable energy supply, potentially leading to increased costs and uncertainty regarding energy security. Additionally, Canada's move to diversify its trade partnerships could diminish the U.S.'s negotiating leverage in energy transactions. As Canada continues to expand its energy export markets, it has forged new agreements with the United States and other nations. But how can Canada strike a new commodities deal while balancing its growing trade relations? The looming tariffs imposed by Washington on the Canadian economy demand an urgent and strategic countermeasure. Canada must make it clear that the U.S. relies on Canadian resources to maintain its energy and economic security. Prioritizing key commodities could help revitalize Canadian industries, boosting GDP, driving technological advancements, and attracting both foreign and domestic investments. This approach would enhance productivity and accelerate investment in domestic resources, making Canada an essential contributor to the U.S. energy and economic strategy. Focusing on specific commodities could also reinvigorate Canada's manufacturing and related service sectors while supporting sustainability measures, such as methane capture and emissions reduction initiatives across the supply chain. This means that a resource-driven economic approach does not have to follow a simplistic extract and export model. A broader consideration is geographical diversification. The 25% tariffs imposed by the U.S. on all steel and aluminum imports from Canada and other countries highlight the necessity of exploring alternative markets. Expanding resource exports would reduce risks associated with large-scale projects and increase Canada's trade of agricultural products, raw materials, and energy with Asia and Europe. Over time, this could unlock opportunities for stronger commercial ties with some of the world's largest and fastest-growing economies. Washington has already acknowledged Canada's importance in resource trade. The decision to impose a 10% tariff on Canadian energy, as opposed to the 25% levied on other commodities, serves as a tacit admission of the critical role Canadian resources play in supporting American strategic interests. But how exactly does Canadian oil and gas contribute to U.S. domestic and foreign energy objectives? Canadian oil, natural gas, and electricity exports bolster U.S. energy reserves, lower consumer costs, and align with Washington's efforts to help its global allies reduce dependence on energy sources from less cooperative nations. The deep integration of North America's energy infrastructure means that any attempt to lessen reliance on Canada would be both expensive and time-consuming. Despite being a net exporter of oil and gas, the U.S. still aims to aid European and Asian allies in diversifying their energy sources while simultaneously meeting its rising domestic demand. While the U.S. possesses substantial reserves, the increasing energy consumption of data centers and artificial intelligence-driven industries is straining capacity. A consistent supply of Canadian energy through well-integrated pipelines and electricity grids allows the U.S. to support its allies with oil and natural gas exports while keeping domestic fuel prices stable. However, Canadian oil could challenge U.S. ambitions to establish itself as the world's dominant swing oil supplier. The share of Canadian crude in U.S. oil imports has risen sharply, accounting for roughly 24% of total U.S. oil consumption. Cross-border pipelines supply heavy crude directly to American refineries, many of which are specifically engineered to process it. For refineries, particularly those in the Midwest, moving away from Canadian crude would mean either undertaking costly modifications or turning to alternative sources such as Venezuela or the Middle East, which could expose them to geopolitical uncertainties. Recent developments, such as the expansion of the Trans Mountain Pipeline, have nearly tripled Canada's capacity to transport oil to global markets, allowing Canadian crude to play an increased role in supporting allies like Japan and South Korea. Meanwhile, Canadian natural gas presents a viable solution for maintaining stable energy supplies in the U.S., freeing up more domestic production for export to European and Asian allies. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, demand for natural gas is projected to surpass supply growth over the next 2 years. Moreover, increasing consumption by data centers and shifts in industrial production could place additional strain on power generation. Canadian natural gas, which currently accounts for 9% of total U.S. natural gas consumption, has the potential to fill this supply gap and expand further. Furthermore, Canada is on track to become a significant supplier of liquefied natural gas, LNG, particularly to key Asian markets. With 6 LNG projects proposed or under construction along its west coast, including the first phase of LNG Canada expected to begin operations this year, Canada's estimated LNG export capacity is projected to reach 6.26 billion cubic feet per day. This development positions Canada as a crucial player in the evolving global energy landscape. This planned expansion in capacity would position Canada among the top 5 global LNG exporters at current production levels. But what role does Canada play in shaping the future of U.S. energy? Affordable and environmentally friendly Canadian electricity has the potential to support a wide range of American industries, including artificial intelligence, advanced manufacturing, and high-tech sectors. While the U.S. produces the majority of its own electricity, Canadian power sources contribute significantly to keeping energy costs low and ensuring a stable supply in multiple U.S. states. New initiatives, such as Hydro-Quebec's Hurdle New York Transmission Project, aim to supply 20% of New York City's electricity needs. This project is expected to further increase electricity exports while providing an estimated $17 billion in savings for residents over the next 3 decades. With more than 30 cross-border transmission lines linking Canadian provinces to U.S. states, Canada plays a critical role in maintaining grid security between the two nations. Additionally, it serves as a potential source of supplementary power generation, which will be increasingly necessary given the growing energy demands of emerging technologies. The rapid expansion of artificial intelligence, which is a strategic priority for the U.S., is projected to significantly boost electricity consumption. Data centers alone are expected to account for approximately 12% of total U.S. electricity demand by 2028, up from 4.4% in 2023. With this rising demand, Canada's energy resources could become even more vital in stabilizing North American power supplies. Canada's energy strategy, however, is not solely an economic decision. It also has the potential to shift geopolitical dynamics. If Canada continues to diversify its exports and strengthen its energy partnerships with Europe and Asia, it could reshape global energy security. How will this evolving equation affect the balance of power? We welcome your thoughts. That concludes today's analysis. We appreciate you taking the time to explore these critical issues with us. If you found this discussion informative, consider supporting our channel by liking this video and subscribing to stay updated with our latest content. Your engagement helps us continue to provide insightful discussions. Now feel free to check out another video from our channel, currently available on your screen.